Welcome back. We are doing Civic stuff again, and this time finally we are building a forged D series engine. You guys know from the previous videos and stuff, we have this stock-ish D15. It only has eBay head studs in it. Worked well for some time, but was quite problematic, kept on blowing head gaskets. Over here is a freshly decked D16Y9. This is exactly the same as the D16Y8. This is just a non-VTEC block. We are going to put a VTEC head on it though. We have ARP head studs, Vitara pistons, skunk rods, and king bearings. We have eBay's finest block brace, and here's the part number on the rods. So these are a long rod. What that does is actually designed to work with this Vitara piston. Because the Vitara piston is quite low, it actually doesn't come out of the deck or even all the way to the top if you use a stock rod. So that's why they made these long rods. That bumps the compression a bit, because you don't really want low compression. Combine that with the low compression of this piston design, and then you end up with something like a 8.8 compression. So that's why they make the rods slightly longer, and then it bumps your compression back up again, even though it's still overall a pretty low compression setup. Anyway, let's pull everything out of the boxes and see what we have. Now here's a tip. These rods are very prone to rust, so do not open the packaging unless you are ready to install them immediately. If you do have to open them beforehand to check fitment, place them back into the paper and store them that way, otherwise they will rust fairly quickly. Okay, so here we have everything laid out. I did buy everything from Facebook Marketplace. Rods and pistons came from one guy. They were opened but never assembled or installed. However, the ARPs and the block was from the other guy, and they were technically, the engine was already assembled at some point. My pistons was 0.5 oversize. These are 0.1 oversize. So I had to trade my 0.5s for these that fit in this block, because this block is bored 0.1 oversize. So at some point this was installed, and the person who built it actually, wasn't working very clean. So you can see there's scratches on this side, and I mean this engine never ran. It was just rotated by hand after assembly. Same thing with the bearings. So this is the brand new bearings that was in it, but if you guys look at it, you can see there's already contamination in brand new bearings. I mean, this one has damage on it. There's a small dent there. So that's why I actually went ahead and bought brand new bearings and pulled everything apart so I can install it myself. Now we do have to check ring gap, because at some point someone did install the pistons, so maybe the rings are already gapped, but you never know, so we have to check. So for the top ring I'm going to do 18, for the bottom ring I'm going to do 20. So I'm just going to put them in the bore and actually measure them to be sure. I'm probably going to pull all the rings off just to check them, clean everything up. An interesting statistic is that 90% of people who watch a channel are not subscribed, so if you find any value in these videos, please consider subscribing. Okay, so I checked the ring gap, and good thing I did, because we are currently at 0.012 and we want to be at 0.018 for the top ring and 0.020 for the bottom ring. So considering we are currently at that for both of them, that would have been way too tight. So if you guys look in there, you can see there's a very, very small ring gap over here. That ring gap's probably fine if you plan to drive it every day to work, keeping it normally aspirated. But if you plan to boost it, you need to have a bit more ring gap, because you're going to have a lot more heat in the engine. Now, why do you need to do ring gap? Basically, that gap there is for expansion. So as the ring heats up, it'll expand. And because we are now putting a turbo on it, it'll see a lot more pressure and a lot more heat, meaning a lot more expansion. So it needs more gap. If you do not give it more gap, it'll actually end up touching there. And the only way for it to expand is outwards. So it'll end up scoring up your sleeve, and even worse, very likely it will break the ring gland. So because there's a lot of friction as it moves up and down, this ring gland will actually break, and it will break the ring with it. Engine will likely still run with a broken ring gland, but you will have a lot of blow-by. So very good that we checked it, because I can almost guarantee that this engine would have failed if we did not check it. Now, to make the ring gap bigger, you can use a small file. If it's your first time, I recommend using a small file, and just file the edge until it's bigger. File off a bit, put it back in the sleeve, then once it's in there, you can use the piston to push it down. Take your feeler gauge and see if you can actually get into the gap. Once it go in, with a tiny bit of resistance, you're right where you want to be. Now what I'm going to do is I have a small grinding disc, on my Dremel. I'm actually just going to touch the edge of the ring on this little blade here, because that'll be a lot quicker. Now if it's your first time doing it, you probably shouldn't be doing it with a power tool, but I've done it before, so I'm confident enough that I can use a power tool for this. Otherwise, this process will take you between 1 and 2 hours. Okay, so we have the ring in there after the first bit of clearancing with the Dremel, and let's see if we are there. So I'm going to take the 18. Basically, it wants to go in. It's kind of going in, but only halfway. So I can see that I cut a bit of a taper into it, so it's a bit bigger in the beginning and a bit smaller at the end. So that's something you also have to be cautious of. Don't cut a taper into it. It's going to be very difficult to try and focus on that. But what I'm going to do now, take it out again, just nick the outer edge again with the Dremel. Once you get the feel for it, it'll go a bit quicker. But this is the thing with ring gaps, is it's quite tedious. You have to put it in, measure, take it out, cut more, put it back in, measure it again. You can rather cut a few times than to cut too much first time. Okay, so 18 goes in quite easily, 20 does not go in. There we go, all the ring gaps are done, all the ring gaps are perfect. It was quite tedious, but doing it with the Dremel definitely speeds up the process a lot. The first one took me about 4 tries to get it perfect. These two were both done in 2 tries, and then the top ring for this one I got first try. So the top ring, first try, perfect. This one, first try, it was very close, so I actually had to take it out twice and just file it a tiny bit so that the feeler gauge can go in. The thing is, it could go in, but very difficult. If I push it in, it will go in, but I don't really want it to be that tight. So if it goes in like it's going in now, that's perfect. Okay, all the rings are gapped now. Now this is something that's quite important. You guys can see I numbered all my pistons. So this is number 1, 2, 3, 4. I did the same thing with the rods. This one is 4, 3, 2, and 1. Now, the reason why I'm marking them is because it is just good practice to do that. This is new pistons, new rods. Doesn't really matter where they go in. The one thing that does matter a lot is the rings. So we gapped these rings for cylinder 1 on cylinder 1, meaning when I was gapping them, I was gapping them in the sleeve. Then when we go to number 2, I was gapping rings for cylinder number 2 inside the sleeve for number 2. So once we put these rings on these pistons now has to go in according to the numbers. I also numbered them here. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4. That's just for my reference. Obviously front of the engine, cylinder 1, back of the engine, cylinder 4. Now of course the rods are also new, so they don't really matter where they go in, but one thing that is crucially essential is the rod cap. So you can see I marked 3, 3. The reason why I did that is If you swap a rod cap, meaning if you put this rod cap on this one, you will very likely have rod bearing failure. Reason is these things are machined, so they're bolted like this and then they're machined while they're bolted together and measured. So if you now take this one and put it on this one, it was not machined on this one. Same thing with flipping them around. If you flip this rod cap around and then put it on, very likely you'll have bearing failure. And the reason for that is as well, it was bolted down like this, and you should bolt it down like that again. Otherwise it could just slightly be off center and this bearing will likely end up failing. Now the good thing about these Vitara setups is everything is floating, meaning this wrist pin, you can install it by hand onto the rod, and you can also install it by hand into the piston, meaning you do not need any special equipment or press. Now when it comes to installing rings, the numbers are always facing up. So you'll see here it says 2 plus 1, so that will always face up. Same with the bottom ring, it says 1 plus 1. Now 1 and 2, meaning this is ring number 1 and this is ring number 2. And the plus 1 just means that it's an oversized ring because we have oversized pistons. So it'll either be plus 0.5 or plus 1. In my case we are 1 mil over, so it's plus 1. Now if your block still has a standard bore, this will actually say STD, and that references standard, not the other thing. Now this bottom scraper ring, I'm not sure if you guys can see, but it actually has a small bevel here at the bottom, and that always faces down. So if the ring has a bevel, that faces down.
Now the squiggly part of the oil control ring is called a spacer. The ends of the spacer ring only butt up against each other, they do not interlock. If you interlock them, you will likely bind up the ring and you'll end up scratching your sleeves. So make sure they butt up against each other and they are not interlinked.
Okay, so we have the piston rings installed, and as you guys can see, the writing always faces up. So the writing on the piston rings, they face up. Now this one says 1 and 2, so it's ring 1 and 2. Number 2 is normally a thicker ring, and the top ring is normally a thinner steel ring. The oil control ring, always install the squiggly spring thing first, otherwise you're going to struggle to get it in behind the other rings. Okay, here we go. Rings are on, all the pistons. Came out really nice. Next is the rods, connecting the rods to the pistons. Now you also have to break these loose. These Kung2 ones come torqued in the package. I saw some of the other ones don't, they actually come with the bolt separate. But if you have these specific ones, you need to actually break this cap loose before you put the rod on the piston. Otherwise you're going to have a really difficult time actually holding on to the rod to break these loose, because these are really tight. I clamped it in a vise with a piece of wood and then broke it loose, very easy. But now I'm going to install the wrist pin. I already put one of these circlips in, and then I'm going to install the wrist pin from the other side. Okay, we are back. We installed the pistons onto the rods. That's all good. I had to go to the spare shop to get a ring compressor because mine apparently went missing. Now let's quickly talk about these pistons. So over here we have the wrist pins installed. You guys can see we have the circlips installed as well. What I do is I kind of push them, hold them in place by pushing my thumb here, and then use the tool to crimp it and make sure it goes into place. The reason why I hold it in place here is because this is a low quality tool and these things can go flying, so it'll fly across your garage and you'll never find it again. Now if one of these things were to come out, it'll very likely be because you didn't put it in correctly, so you have to make sure that it is seated all the way around. If it's not seated and this thing actually comes out, not only will the circlip fall out into your engine and possibly wreak havoc, if it doesn't, what will happen is the wrist pin will actually be able to slide in and out of your piston. So the wrist pin will slide out of there, and it will end up, riding on the side of your skirt here, on the side of your sleeve. And very likely it will, make a scratch mark there, gouge it, and you'll end up, creating blow-by, because you're going to have, scratches down your sleeve. So be very sure that these things are in all the way, seated all the way around. Alright guys, so for our ring gaps, this is what we have. For the top ring, we have 0.018. Bottom ring, it's 0.020. And then for the two oil rings, I literally just nicked them all together. We have 0.025. Now, if we go to the Honda service manual, you can see standard and service limits. And then we go to ring end gap, top, second oil. And we can zoom in here. And you can see here's the sizes. So they recommend 0.06 and 0.012. So out of the box, that's the size. So they were literally within spec out of the box. We could have just installed them if this was just going to be a normally aspirated engine. But because we are boosting it, obviously we went bigger. So we went 18, 20, 25. As you guys can see, that is over what they recommend. So they obviously recommend 12, 18, and 28 as a maximum. We are only, within spec on the oil ring. These two are over. It's not service limit yet, so if you look at the service limit on this side, you can see 24, 28, 31 is the service limit, and we are within, service limit. Okay, so another thing is piston ring alignment. So how you actually align the rings on the piston. Apparently that is also very important. Now, according to the Honda manual, they say do not position any ring gaps at piston thrust surfaces, meaning on the load side of the pistons. And then they also say do not do it over the position of the pinhole, meaning here where the pin goes in. So none of the ring gaps should be on the load side, none of the ring gaps should be over the pin. So what they basically recommend is, first gap there, second gap there, and then your oil control ring 15 degrees apart here. Now how I do it is I actually put, the one at the top here and the other one on this side. So what the theory with that is, the air would have a longer way to travel in case, for blow-by to actually get past the rings, because it has to, go in here all the way around that way. And then I also do the same on the oil control ring. So I'll put the one gap over there, other gap is over there. Top ring, gap is over here, other gap is over there. So are you going to listen to what the manual say or what I say? I do want to clarify that I'm actually a web developer, not a mechanic. Now these guys actually do work with us, the guys that sell these manuals. And this is 2,000 pages, so you can literally find anything you want. Building engines, working on the car, all of that is in here. You can search, you can use the index if you're using this on your PC, you can put it on your phone. So if you use the link in the description to buy one of these, there'll be a discount for you and you will be supporting the channel. And like I said, this is 2,000 pages, so it just keeps going with everything you can think of, engine related, gearbox related, wiring, body panels, anything you can think of, it is in here.
Anyway guys, I'm going to cut the video here just because I don't want to make it too long. Part 2 of this will likely already be available by the time you're watching this, so please go ahead, watch part 2. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you all in the next one.